This is Film Bookcast.
Film Bookcast.
Film Bookcast, the official podcast of Film Book. Get ready for the latest in film news, TV show news, and theatrical reviews. Film Book's podcast starts now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Film Bookcast, the official podcast of Film Book. My name is Chris Banks. If you're tuning into Film Bookcast for the first time, what I do on this podcast is discuss the latest film and TV show news. I also review an in-theater film. You can find more Film Bookcast on film-book.com by using the search term Film Bookcast. You can also email us at podcast@film-book.com with Film Bookcast in the subject line. Now let's check out some TV show trailers. The second TV show trailer for Netflix's upcoming 2021 post-apocalyptic TV thriller about a warring tribe split in Europe called Tribes of Europa was released. The future is not what you expected. The 2074 Europe is split into many tribal states fighting for dominance. The three siblings, Kayano, Liv, and Elijah, get caught in the middle of this bloody war and are forced to forge their own paths. Watch the second trailer for Tribes of Europa. NBC's streaming service Peacock has announced the Season 3 premiere date for Mr. Mercedes. Mr. Mercedes is Brendan Gleeson's Peacock TV series, produced by David E. Kelly and directed by Jack Bender. Season 3 of the crime thriller series continues the story based on the best-selling Bill Hodges trilogy. Written by Stephen King, Mr. Mercedes returns for its much-anticipated third season. When beloved local author John Rothstein is found murdered, Hodge, Holly, and Jerome, along with local police, must track down his killer. But this case is more complex than the cold-blooded killing of an American icon. Unpublished novels for Rothstein's were stolen from his home and they were worth millions. As the case unfolds, the trio learns that although Brady Hartsfield may be gone, his depravity lives on in the lives of his victims. Season 3 of Mr. Mercedes premieres on Thursday, March 4th on Peacock. Watch the trailer now. Finally, the Queen of Soul gets her due as Cynthia Erivo takes the stage as Aretha Franklin in National Geographic's anthology TV series called Genius. Anthony Hemingway directed the pilot episode. Don't miss Academy Award nominee Cynthia Erivo as Aretha Franklin in this third season of the critically acclaimed global anthology series Genius, Aretha. The limited series explores Aretha Franklin's musical genius and incomparable career, as well as the immeasurable impact and lasting influence she has had on music and culture around the world. Franklin was a gospel prodigy, an outspoken civil rights champion, and was widely considered the greatest singer of the past 50 years, receiving countless honors throughout her career. Genius Aretha will be the first ever definitive and only authorized scripted series of the life of the universally acclaimed Queen of Soul. The TV series will premiere on March 21st, and check out the TV trailer now. Are you ready for some film trailers? Shudder has released the first official trailer for Violation, a disturbing revenge thriller that premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival, recently screened at Sundance, and will play at South by Southwest next month ahead of its March 25th streaming release. The film is a haunting psychological drama about a country retreat gone awry when two sisters and their parents hunker down for the weekend. It's the feature filmmaking debut from Madeline Sims-Fewer and Dusty Mancinelli, with Sims-Fewer delivering a wallop of a performance as the unraveling protagonist. With her marriage about to implode, Miriam returns to her hometown to seek solace in the comfort of her youngest sister and brother-in-law. But one evening, a tiny slip in judgment leads to a catastrophic betrayal, leaving Miriam shocked, reeling, and furious. Believing her only recourse is to exact revenge, Miriam takes to extreme action, but the price of retribution is high, and she is not prepared for the toll it takes as she begins to emotionally and psychologically unravel. Watch the trailer for Violation. Written by Andrew Shaw and Simon Mauer comes The Affair, starring Claes Bang and Hannah Ahlstrom, also Karis Van Houten. The film is about a forbidden love story set in Nazi Germany. The Affair begins in 1930 Czechoslovakia as newlyweds Victor and Liesl are filled with optimism and happiness in their new home. But all too soon, extramarital temptations bring out their darkest secrets and desires. As Liesl turns to her sensual friend Hannah for the passion she lacks in her marriage, Nazi troops enter the country, threatening the Landauers' lives and the burning desire between the two women. Watch the Affair trailer. It premieres March 5th on video on demand. If you watch the Super Bowl, you got a teaser at Fast and Furious 9. Vin Diesel's Tom Toretto is leading a quiet life off the grid with Letty and his son Little Brian, but they know that danger always lurks just over the peaceful horizon. This time, that threat will force Dom to confront the sins of his past if he's going to save those he loves the most. His crew joins together to stop a world-shattering plot led by the most skilled assassin and high-performance driver they've ever encountered, a man who also happens to be Dom's forsaken brother, Jacob, played by John Cena. Fast 9 premieres May 28th, and you can watch the trailer now. Let's switch gears and head over to TV show news. Game of Thrones creators David Benioff and D.B. Weiss have added a third project to their Netflix slate. The duo is teaming with Hugh Jackman on an adaptation of the Pulitzer Prize-winning The Overstory novel. Netflix announced on Thursday that its television adaptation of The Overstory, a novel written by Richard Powers that won the Pulitzer Prize for fiction in 2009, will be executive produced by Benioff, Weiss, and Jackman. A release date and casting details for the projects are under wraps, though Deadline reported that it was possible that Jackman may have an acting role in the series. The publication also reported that Richard Robbins wrote the pilot script for the series and will also executive produce alongside Bernadette Caulfield, who previously served as an executive producer on Game of Thrones and is currently president of Benioff and Weiss Production Company. The Overstory novel centers on 5 trees that resonate with 9 diverse Americans, ultimately bringing them together and motivating them to address environmental destruction. The novel was well received by critics and became a New York Times bestseller. The Overstory adaptation further bulks up Benioff and Weiss's content slate for Netflix. The duo signed a 9-figure deal with Netflix in 2009 and are currently involved in 2 other projects for the streaming service. Benioff and Weiss are serving as writers and executive producers alongside Alexander Wu on an adaptation of acclaimed science fiction trilogy, The Three-Body Problem. They are also serving as executive producers on Lysandra O. Led, The Chair, which is executive produced by Amanda Peet. Dave Chappelle announces return to Netflix and clears the air on the Comedy Central saga. Dave Chappelle's show is returning to Netflix on February 12th, the comedian has revealed. He also spoke about his dealings with Comedy Central and thanked Netflix chief Ted Sarandos for standing by him. Chappelle's show was removed from Comedy Central back in 2020 at Dave Chappelle's request. The issue was a dispute around a contract that Chappelle had with Comedy Central owner Viacom CBS, in which he alleged allowed the company to license the series without his agreement and also prevented him from receiving royalties. According to the incident, Chappelle said, "I never asked Comedy Central for anything. If you remember, I said, I'm going to my real boss, and I came to you," meaning the audience, "because I know where my power lies. I asked you to stop watching the show, and thank God Almighty for you, you did. You made that show worthless because without your eyes, it's nothing, and you stopped watching it. They called me, and I got my name back, and I got my license back, and I got my show back, and they paid me millions of dollars." This is a very important moment, Chappelle continued. "I want to thank Ted Sarandos at Netflix, a CEO with the courage to take my show off its platform, just because I asked him to. I want to thank Chris McCarthy of CBS Viacom. The guy's younger than me, and like most younger people than me, has an interest in making the past right and did something that was very courageous. And finally, after all these years, I can finally say that Comedy Central, it's been a pleasure doing business with you." Very exciting news for Dave Chappelle fans, as you can catch the return of Chappelle's show on Netflix February 12th. TBS announced this week that its newly imagined version of its extreme obstacle course series called Wipeout will premiere on April 1st at 9 p.m. The game show will be hosted by superstars John Cena and Nicole Byer, with Camille Kostek serving as the field host. The 20-hour series will take viewers on a white-knuckle ride featuring a new course elements that will push contestants' athleticism, endurance, and determination to even greater extremes as they fight to win the grand cash prize. You can catch the trailer for the newly imagined version of Wipeout, premiering April 1st on TBS. Now let's get over to film news. If you're a fan of L. Frank Baum's 1900 novel The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, director Nicole Kassell has been hired to direct a new film adaptation of the novel. The film will be distributed in the United States through New Line Cinema. The writing team includes Neil Widener, Gavin James, as well as Darren Lemke. Nicole's selection follows an extensive director search by New Line to find a visionary filmmaker to reimagine The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. They liked what they saw in how Kassell acted as a meticulous world builder and overseeing every step of the Watchmen production, setting the show's striking visual tone with no detail overlooked and weaving visual cues from the panels from the comics into the series as delicate Easter eggs for fans. Kassell also demonstrated an ability to adapt challenging material, breathing new life into DC's revered and notoriously difficult to adapt graphic novel. The story chronicles the adventures of a young farmer farm girl named Dorothy in the magical land of Oz after she and her pet dog Toto are swept away from their home in Kansas by a cyclone. The Wonderful Wizard of Oz currently has no production start date and no release date yet. Black Widow is currently scheduled to open theatrically on May 7th, which would make it the first blockbuster of 2021. We are still intending to be a theatrical release, the CEO said Thursday during Disney's quarterly earnings call. However, he declined to clarify if Black Widow will release in May as planned or if it will be delayed until the box office is less impaired. Marvel movies typically carry production budgets around $200 million, which may make it virtually impossible to turn a profit at the time when hardly anyone is going to the movies. We are going to watch very carefully the reopening of theaters and consumer sentiment on going back to the theater, he said. During the pandemic, Disney has made some bold moves to compensate for the closure of movie theaters. Mulan skipped the U.S. theater entirely and launched on Disney Plus for a premium price, while Pixar's Soul premiered on the platform at no extra cost to paying customers. Both movies played in the international cinemas, generating $69 million and $104 million respectively. Those ticket sales are modest given the circumstances, but they're a fraction of what the studio was expecting to collect when they were greenlit. The CEO noted that Soul, a well-received animated film, had a positive impact on Disney Plus's subscriber acquisition and retention since launching on Christmas Day. The streaming service currently has 94.9 million customers worldwide as of the 2nd of this month. That's up 8 million since last month in December. Fans of Parasite are getting one step closer to discovering how the Oscar-winning director will follow up the award-winning film. During a 90-minute conversation with director Ron Johnson on the Director's Cut podcast, Bond confirmed that he was finished writing the script of one of 2 Parasite follow-up projects. The director spent 2020 writing both scripts simultaneously, telling Johnson. It feels like I'm splitting my brain in half left and right writing these 2 scripts, but I finished in 1 week. One script is in Korean and one is in English. The specifics of these projects have yet to be revealed, though Bong told Variety last year that each script is comparable to the scope of Parasite in his 2009 film Mother. The Korean film is located in Seoul and has unique elements of horror and action, Bong said. It's difficult to define the genre of my films. The English project is a drama film based on a true event that happened in 2016. Of course, I won't know until I finish the script, but it has to be set half in the UK and half in the US. Very exciting news for Parasite fans. Count me one of them. Alright, it's time for this week's movie review. You know I had to do it. I had to see The Little Things. Directed by John Lee Hancock. The screenplay is also by John Lee Hancock. It stars Denzel Washington, Jared Leto, and Rami Malek. It just came out in theaters, and it's also on HBO Max. Deputy Sheriff Joe Deacon joins forces with Sergeant Jim Baxter to search for a serial killer who's terrorizing Los Angeles. As they track the culprit, Baxter is unaware that the investigation is dredging up echoes of Dick's past, uncovering disturbing secrets that could threaten more of his case. The film opens up with the homage to Another Time in Cinema, almost. It hooks you. It's very intriguing. It's an awesome start to the movie. I mean, the film's title is The Little Things, right? So you know going in that there's going to be secrets. You see very quickly aspects of whispers and tension between Rami and Denzel's character. As a viewer, you get a sense of very early on that somebody is pretending like they don't know one another. Those same people are keeping secrets and they're very deceiving. And it's a theme that repeats itself throughout the film. Denzel is amazing. Denzel is Denzel. You know what you're getting with Denzel. He brings a spot-on A+ performance to Deke. The character is disturbed, very disturbed. You take a trip back with him and you see why he's disturbed. You don't really... They give you little things, little clues, little tidbits, little sentences, little words that give the viewer an idea of what Deke's past, Denzel's character, looks like and why he is disturbed. Rami plays a hotshot sergeant who replaced Deke when Deke left the force, Denzel's character. I don't want to undercut the arc of Rami's character, but I just felt that Sergeant Jim Baxter was not who he should be. I don't think it's Rami's fault either. I think that the character should have been developed way more. It left me with massive things that I was appetizing. Denzel's character is very disturbed. You get introduced to Jared's character and you feel the creepiness of him and the role that he's playing in our story. But Denzel's character, Deke, is disturbed himself. I mean, he talks to corpses and pictures of dead people. They talk back to him and he thinks that he hears the truth about what happened. You can tell that this life is eating away at Denzel. It's not healthy. In Denzel's mind, these dead people become alive. That's, in my opinion, that's why he's so unhealthy. That's why he's so disturbed, because he spends his nights talking to dead people. He says at some point in the movie that it's never over. An investigation is never over to Denzel's character because he lives this stuff. He talks to dead people. He puts the pictures of the victims on the walls and he talks to them as if they talk back to him. This is what I think the film gets brilliantly right in showing you that it is little things. It's the little things that make a murder investigation come together. It's the little things that make a murder suspect get away. It's the little things that disturb the detectives in their personal life. You know, it's the little things that there's something in the past between Rami's character and Denzel's character. We don't really know what, right? Which is very intriguing, but we know that I'm not going to give too much of the movie away, but something happens in the movie that Denzel has to help Rami's character with, and the viewers get a sense that this is actually payback for something that Rami did for Denzel. I see the plot points as extremely disjointed. I really feel like this could have been an epic movie, and instead I was left with tons of questions and wanting so much more from the story, from the relationships in the story, from Rami's character. I mean, Leto's brilliant in it, but the entire story is weird and is disjointed, and it's not alive as it should be. I'm not sure who was responsible for this, what it is exactly, but I was left extremely unsatisfied by watching The Little Things. I liked the movie, like I like the components of it, but again, it's just disjointed. Some of it makes no sense. There's no motivations for some of these things to happen. There's little backstory to understand why certain things are happening. We get introduced to certain characters who drop little things in the viewer's lap. Like, we get introduced to a morgue worker who says things like "what we did," meaning between her and Denzel. And we as the viewer, we don't really know what the hell they're talking about. But we know that there's something that's happened in Denzel's past that is both disturbing and that Rami and everyone else around him are trying to cover up for and not let the truth out about. That's what I am so unsatisfied about, is because this could have been a much better movie if they just spent more time developing the characters and telling more of the story, I think. But the directing, John's directing is phenomenal. I mean, the first time that they reveal Leto's character, the framing is brilliant. It's striking, it's effective in building the intrigue of his character. It's beautiful. But again, the goodness of the directing is outmatched by the cloudy storytelling and the disjointed plot points. You know, and I'm a massive fan of Denzel. I love Denzel Washington, and he does great. He does a great acting job, but this character could have been way more. This character could have been way better. This whole movie could have been way better. I have to spend more time with it to think about what could have been better, but there's a scene with Rami's character and his wife. When I watched it twice, and it makes no sense. There's certain scenes that are in this movie that add nothing to the movie and actually confuse the viewer. That was disappointing for me because I had very high expectations for the film. And I would say the Rotten Tomatoes scores kind of sort of reflects my opinion of it. It's extremely underwhelming. It could have been so much better because I see what they're getting at. I see the little things. I see this great story that could have been told, and it just wasn't. And it's no one's fault, I don't think. The way the thing came together, I'm not sure. A fantastic performance by Denzel. Not that good of a performance by Rami. A fantastic performance by Jared. John Lee Hancock did a great job choosing the sequence of the scenes and the framings and stuff, but the film in totality is extremely underwhelming. But I want you to watch it because it's a great produced movie. Denzel, Leto, Malick. It's worth 2 hours of your time. And you may like it more than I do. But I thought that it could have been way better. And I guess I'm just disappointed that it isn't. It's very much a 50-50 thing. I hope you like it. There's definitely a lot to like in there, and performances are good, but it just could have been so much better. It's in theaters. The Little Things is in theaters, but it's also on HBO Max, and I hope that you watch it in any way that you feel most comfortable. Thanks for listening to this episode of Film Bookcast. You can find more of my work on film-book.com. Just search for Chris Banks or Film Bookcast. You can find me on Twitter. I'm at @CBanksy. That's SEE Banksy. And I'm on Instagram, at the Chris Banks. If you listen to this podcast on iTunes or another podcast service, please rate and review this episode. If you're listening to this podcast on YouTube channel, Film Book Podcast, please like our video, subscribe to our channel, and leave us a comment in the comments section. It really helps other people discover our podcast. Please also consider becoming one of our patrons on Patreon at patreon.com/filmbook. Your support helps us create more engaging content. You'll find our Patreon link below in the description. If you want to tweet about this podcast, just use the hashtag FilmBookcast. Tune in next week for the next episode of the Film Bookcast. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you then.